what our internal boundaries were, if they got crossed, if we had internal boundaries. Who knows?
Hey guys, this is Dave.
And Jasmine.
And this is Engineered by God. In this video, we are talking about dating. We're going to give you a little insight into the things that we did wrong and some things that maybe we actually did kind of right. And hopefully that can help you guys in your relationship if you're currently dating right now or if you're single, looking to date, all that good stuff. So I think the first thing to start off with is, as a Christian, how do we view dating?
Right. And for us, dating is just our way of transitioning from singleness into marriage with someone who we think is a possible candidate for as a spouse.
But if you need a fancy definition, we got one here from the Gospel Coalition. They say dating is merely our culture's disposable yet legitimate mode of expressing interest to any degree in entering into the marriage covenant with a particular person.
Right. Couldn't have said it better myself. So, main thing, your foundation is so important. Making sure you start out on a strong foundation.
Right, and what we mean by that is if you're looking to develop a godly relationship with another person, you have to have a godly relationship with God. I think that's a big area of weakness in the beginning of our relationship. To be completely honest, that's not how we started at all. To say lukewarm would be giving me a little too much credit. And Jazz said that when I first met her was like, I'm never reading the Bible. So
go back and watch that video if you haven't.
So safe to say we did not start with a solid foundation. And because of that, that kind of created some issues. I won't say issues, but we formed some bad habits and things that we had to unlearn as we were developing our relationship with God.
Right, because at this point we were about a year in, and I just became Christian, so most of that year, the foundation was terrible, shaky. So, yeah. So the next thing is just knowing the end goal. And as Christians, the end goal should be marriage. And I think sometimes in terms of what time is it? So the next thing is just making sure you know what the end goal is. And for Christians, the end goal should be marriage. And this, a lot of times, in terms of the difference between, worldly dating, for lack of better terms, and Christian dating, sometimes for worldly dating, they may or may not start out wanting to seeking marriage. But a lot of times the approach is sometimes recreational, where you guys are just like kicking it, enjoying each other's company, and then you do that long enough and you're like, we've been kicking it for a while now. Let's get married.
We ain't getting no younger. Might as well do this.
Yes. And then another way sometimes is the educational route, where basically you're like, okay, I'm going to try before I buy type mentality, where you're like, I'm just going to try this guy, try this. I didn't mean to say guy, but try, and see, what makes me happy and what I actually like. And then I can say, okay, this is what I need in a person, and now we're going to get married. But for Christians, a lot of times, or what it should be for Christians, is you, instead of looking for finding the right person, you are focused on being the right person for your spouse. And you guys are, working together. You guys are building that closeness, understanding each other, learning about each other, all while glorifying God at the same time.
And to be honest, even though we were like completely just wilding, to be honest with you, I'm not sure if that's a universal term or that's just a Philly term, but if it's a Philly term, you learn something new today. But for us, gratefully, we kind of started off that way. I mean, we both went into dating with the mindset that we didn't want to just date for fun. We wanted to date to find someone that we could, end up marrying and spending the rest of our life with. So luckily, we kind of stumbled into something good there.
Yeah.
But I will say something that really helped us out was a series, a video that we watched from Vodi Bachman or Bacham. Not really sure how to pronounce the last name. I forget it. But nonetheless, it really highlighted for us what biblical love was and what biblical marriage was, and kind of gave us a new standard to kind of reach for and go towards together as a couple. And so moving on, the next thing is practice makes perfect. And what we mean by that is whatever you want to see flourish in your marriage, you need to be working on now in your relationship.
Yes.
And this is one area that we were just struggling all together, specifically in our spiritual relationships. I think for me and Jazz, we both saw each other grow individually spiritually, but we didn't know how to really help and encourage each other to grow together
as a unit. Yeah.
Right. And so like things like praying together sometimes felt awkward, or spending time in worship. And I think, I know for me for sure, I thought once we got married, this is just gonna fix all of this and we're gonna be able to like finally put this together. And it was like, no, it's not. You're still gonna have some of those same issues.
And then on another side, when it comes to the whole practice makes perfect thing, is like we said before, knowing what the role is, what your role is as a wife, as a husband, and practicing those things. So want to practice serving another person. You want to make sure you use this time to see what kind of person you're getting into a relationship with them. For you, you're supposed to be the head of the household as a husband. So do I trust you to lead me when we have Bible study and stuff? Are you just like way off? Or do I feel like, okay, we're on the same page, we're reading the same word? I mean, that's a real thing, that's a real thing. And I think those things mattered as well.
Sure. And I do want to clarify, like, you're not going to perfect any part of your relationship by the time you get married.
Right.
It's just the mindset of understanding that I need to start working on whatever those things that are weak in my relationship right now, as opposed to sometime in the future.
Yeah, right. And the final thing, but one of the most important things, well, I won't say that, but the final thing is...
It is one of the most important. We didn't do it, but it's still really important.
That's accountability, all right?
You want me to jump in?
Yeah.
So like, I saw this with us. Sometimes you can get so wrapped up in a person that it really clouds your judgment or your perception of like your relationship, yourself, the other person. And so sometimes you need someone who's outside of you to kind of tell you the truth as to how things may really be going.
Yep. Yeah. And I heard someone use the phrase, you want to create external accountability and internal boundaries within your relationship. It's perfect. Sums it up great, But when you create those external boundaries, the external accountability person, you want to make sure they're Christian. You want to make sure there's someone who's actually going to challenge you. They're not just going to let anything slide. They're going to be like, yo, you tripping, all right? And tell you to get back in the word, change some things, do some things, maybe let the person go, who knows? But yeah, you want that person who's going to tell it like it is.
I think for us, like, we're going to address some of these things in our next video, and we're kind of, scared about what exactly we're going to say, but we were spending a lot of time together alone. And obviously that's not really a good position to be in, and you can kind of imagine what that might have led to. Next video. But if we had an external, someone outside of us who we were kind of sharing our relationship with,
and was keeping us accountable for the internal boundaries that we set within our relationship.
Right. We could have avoided a lot of issues, you know what I mean, in our relationship early on. And so I think it's easy to think that, yeah, we're fine, we have this all covered, because honestly, in a worldly perspective, our relationship was phenomenal. You know, it was great.
Yeah.
But from a godly perspective, there were a lot of issues here and there. So many compromises made, and because we felt good and felt great in the moment,
Yeah.
we thought, hey, this doesn't really matter. But if you have someone who's really holding you accountable, they're gonna be like,
It matters.
It matters. Like, are you reading this? Like, it matters. And so yeah. But you should stick around for the next video to hear a little bit more about that and what we did
Yeah.
wrong.
What our internal boundaries were, if they got crossed, if we had internal boundaries, who knows? But yeah, thank you guys for joining us. That's all we have. If you guys liked the video, please give it a thumbs up. Please subscribe and leave a comment below. Are you dating right now? Are you married? Are you single? Let us know. We're interested. Outside of that, see ya. Hey you. I know you like that. I know you like that video. I know this is your second video, maybe your third, maybe your umpteenth time watching one of our videos. So why don't you just subscribe already? It's free. Why not? And while you're at it, why don't you look at some other videos we have? There's some down here. Go ahead. Click.